Peace and love, everyone. It's Samu to Mama Yoga Wellness and the Mind, Body, Energy in Balance podcast. How y'all doing? We're so happy to be back with you today. Another fabulous, exciting episode. Ooh, Lord have mercy. That Kevin Samuels portion of last week's podcast is on fire, which I guess we knew it would be, right, Flaw?
Yes. Before we got this podcast started, I definitely wanted to touch on a few things briefly by starting off the episode by giving the listeners a refresher of, last week is kind of like Stories, a TV show previously on the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance podcast. Last week, we started a poll, would you date a bus driver? It actually ended 50-50. So there's that. Okay. The hot topic of last week was actually Kevin Samuels. Didn't know that man was that powerful. Watch what you say about Kev.
Right.
Other than that, overall, great episode. The people enjoyed it. We are on Spotify, so make sure you follow us on Spotify. And if you like what you hear, regardless of what you think of what you heard, rate us 1 through 4 stars. I think it's 1 through 4, 1 through 5. But give us the most. Also, Apple Podcasts, subscribe, leave us a review. Thank you. Back to you.
Okay, so giving thanks and praise to our glorious ancestors upon whose shoulders we stand. We give thanks and honor and well-being and care and love for the mission put on our heart. May that mission be received in the spirit of love, well-being, healing, and upliftment with which it is meant. Thank you for listening. So today, let's have a chat about something else that may be interesting for people, and that's money and relationships, right? I heard an interview with Gabrielle Union, and she said that she and her man split their bills. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Because all of this is relevant to our spirit, right? To our mind, body, and energy being in balance. It's all relevant, And she said she and her man split the bills, and she prefers to keep her money. Their relationship is what it is. She keeps her money, their money. They have separate accounts because they each have obligations that they have to manage that is not relevant to the marriage, like taking care of family members or whatever, right? And it was a lot of feedback about that. Well, what you think about it? What do y'all think about their dynamic? And the one thing I want to bring, when I was listening to her, here's the thing with all of it. Whatever works for you and your partner is what works for you and your partner. People were saying, well, he got much more money than her. She shouldn't have to pay 50% or nothing. I mean, it's irrelevant. What works for you and your partner is what works for you and your partner.
I laugh when you brought this topic up because I typically look at the title of a story, and I just, before I read it, I come up with my own conclusion as to just the energy that I've seen Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade produced over the years. So without even reading it, I go, sounds like a Gabrielle Union idea.
Right.
Sounds like this is how she would like it to be.
Yeah.
Right? Because what she's not going to do is let Dwayne Wade travel the world, make all the money while she stays home and slaves over a stove.
Right.
Gabrielle Union has always been a woman that goes out and gets it.
Right.
So if she does not have the purse of Dwayne Wade, I could still see as her keeping her independent, her keeping her Gabrielle. Remember, think about this also. She's married. She's not Gabrielle Wade. Right. She's still Gabrielle Union. She's a brand. So when I saw that article, without even reading, I said, this is probably her idea. And if she ever needed anything, her husband got her. I see the way he looks at her.
Right.
I see the way they look at each other. They love each other. They have a child together. They have a family together.
Right.
They have a business. They have a brand. And I get it. In this podcast world, and just like the Kevin Samuel video we posted on social media, you're going to have people who just say anything. Right? Because the article is actually funny to where she said, if a movie doesn't come out or I don't get the role, I can't pay the bills. And that's hilarious. Coming from them. And I just laugh because the bills will get paid.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I don't know if it's her pride, it's her ego, it's just her. But Gabrielle Union is a strong woman, and this was her idea probably.
Yeah. It's her trauma. And it's what she feels safe. Listen, we got to call, water, and juice. It is her trauma. It is almost any woman's trauma when they want, a certain divide in a collective. Right? And any man's trauma too, but we specifically talking about money and relationships from the purview of a woman and a very wealthy, high status woman like Gabrielle Union. Right? I think Charlamagne and Envy, this morning they shared on the Breakfast Club, that in their relationships, the money is our money, not my money or my wife's money. It's our money because we built what we have together. Those women don't have the trauma of sharing a bank account with a man and he running off with the money. They don't have the trauma of, and the trust issues that he's not going to do what he says he's going to do. Somewhere in Gabrielle Union's life, she had some trauma. And she talks openly about being, raped.
Yeah.
So that's her trauma. So whatever works for that relationship, and women can write in and call and say whatever they want to say about, no, it's my money. I think we should be going half because I want to keep my money. If you trusted and were secure that man was going to do exactly what he said he was going to do, and that you were secure that he had your back without a shadow of a doubt, you would be less inclined towards the whole it's my money and your money is our money and my money is my money.
Real quick,
I just want to finish the stream of consciousness.
Gotcha.
Don't forget your point. But that's not to say that all women who feel that way are in a traumatic position. Maybe their man does do and is very reliable and the trust is there, but for whatever reason, maybe one partner is terrible with managing money. For whatever reason, they say, okay, let's go 50-50, or, we have a collective pot and then we have our individual separate pots. Whatever reason, whatever works for you and your relationship is what works. And nobody else really should say what should be in that instance. Go ahead, Flo. I'm sorry.
Well, you're good. What I'll say is just examples from DJ Envy and Charlamagne, which is way different because I believe those two are with their high school sweethearts.
That's right. They built what they have together.
So when you're with your high school sweetheart, technically she definitely helped you build your empire because she was the one taking care of the home and raising the children.
That's right.
Gabrielle Union not a problem, but Gabrielle Union's situation is she wasn't there when he got drafted to the league.
Right.
He was already a millionaire and probably one of the best basketball players in the league. So you can't come into that relationship being the housewife.
Right.
You have to be a made person. When by the time you get to Dwayne Wade status. And like you mentioned, Gabrielle Union of her trauma, and you reminded me of her trauma. I did know a little about it, but she also just reminds me of being, a strong individual.
Yeah.
A strong individual that even though you might have so much more than me, I can still hold my weight.
Right.
And this is how she holds her weight. So.
Well, I mean, and it's relative, right? It's relative because some of the callers this morning said, if we regular people, like everyday, working class people, we have to work together differently than somebody people who are multimillionaires and they arrange their financial situations differently. Again, what works for you? I've been very blessed throughout my career life, owning caregiver agencies, providing care for the top 1%. Here on the East Coast, to be at the table with them or be in proximity of how many of them manage their financial lives. And oftentimes, I'm talking about the top 1% now, I'm talking about people with great amounts of wealth. Oftentimes, both persons, the husband and the wife, come to the table trusted, that is, with trust funds. They do not merge those trust funds. They don't be like, okay, so your 100 million and my 100 million is our 100 million. They don't do that. Those trust funds stay separate and covered and protected for the generational wealth of each side of the family. And then what they do as a union, they create a unified trust fund for the offspring that they are going to make. But they don't combine their wealth the way people think they combine their wealth. Right? So all this, you my husband, I'm your wife, what's ours is ours. If you have a certain, financial capacity, you got to look at things a little different. Whether you come to the table made or not. Now, somebody who is going to date or be with like a ball player or even a multimillionaire businessman or whatever, those women are of a different kind of cut, let me tell you. Because that is sport in and all itself, hooking up with a ball player and getting them to marry you. It's a different kind of cut, Yeah. How you come off the cheerleader line, no disrespect to them women, and don't get it wrong, I'm just talking about the type of tenacious, one goal focused mindset you have to, enter the arena of women who trying to marry these ball players and all of this kind of thing, right? So, she's going to come. There's an understanding at that level, right? So the conversation with Gabrielle Union sparks a whole genre, a whole different level of things that we can talk about that is really not relevant to Gabrielle and Dwayne. What that's working for them is working for them, obviously, right? But out here where we are and the different relationships in the world, you got to do what works for you. And if sharing your money, pooling your money, if you got one pot for the house and then you have, a pot for him and a pot for her, I know many people who do that. They say, this is our responsibility pot. And here's my discretionary or indiscretion. I could do whatever I want with this money. And here's your whatever you could do whatever you want with your money. And that works. Everybody feels like they have, some leeway. If you want to go buy, some tennis shoes and a diamond ring, it's not well, you didn't come ask me about that. No, it came out of your side of your, your discretionary money, your free money, so to speak.
Funny you bring that up. The podcast brothers, we haven't recorded since February. Mm-hmm. But one of our topics was the Beyonce concert. Yeah. And those tickets are very expensive.
Yeah. I don't even know how much they are.
But if you have it set up the way you described.
Yeah.
I got my Beyonce money. I got my Beyonce money because the bills are paid.
Right.
But when you go see a lot of times, right? Mm-hmm. We go into our people.
Yeah.
In this community.
Yeah.
We go into relationships and we are quick to combine wages.
Right.
Quick to combine it, and then we put ourselves in this position. What I'm listening to you say is, if I got $200,000, but you got $75,000, we got to look at each other and say, well, what can we afford?
Right.
Instead of the man, or let's just say the woman, either or, whoever has the most. Instead of the person with the most goes, let's go get this $300,000 house because I make the most.
Right.
Well, can we afford that?
That's right. That's right. That's right. And that's where people kind of get tripped up, especially in this time frame. You really have to be conscious of your debt, and debt together. The same thing too, marrying with somebody, combining with somebody, if they have the other way, if they have $200,000 in student loan debt, and you don't have any student loan debt, when you marry them, that becomes your debt. That's not his debt or her debt. That becomes your debt. And so watching shows like the Ramsey Show or Wealth Nation, the brother and sister who run Wealth Nation, talk about, once you marry and decide to spend your lives and work your lives together and you're legally and spiritually connected, now you as a team go and tackle that debt, no matter who bought it to the relationship, because the debt now harnesses both of you. So these things have to be looked at in a very mature and, slow down, slow your roll, baby, and turn the social media off. That's going to trip you up. The whole thing of money and marriage really has to be about what works for the two couples, for their decided goals. And if you're marrying somebody without a projection and goals for your marriage life, what is your family coming together for? Like what what's the relationship about? What's the connection about? And have a specific direction for the success of your family. So money and marriage is really one of the main things that people break up over. And the whole, people say, oh well, the whole, like, he got to take care of me and do whatever. That was it, really, honestly, for a certain particular time period. It really was. I know I'm going to get a whole bunch of comments on this part, because if I don't know, maybe is anybody out there in radio land, but the honest truth. Okay, let's take it back a little bit. The wedding ring, the engagement ring, is or was a symbol of the male's capacity to provide for the family that he was requesting to create. That is what the engagement ring is supposed to represent. It's kind of a dowry, or the pregame, a pre-show of like, look, I'm doing successful, so I'm here. This is my promise to you. And that was a time period where woman was expected to create the home environment and raise the next level of success in the family. Because truly you can't, it's almost impossible to do both well. To be a career woman and raise your children sane. Here go another part, right? Raise your children to be sane, balanced, nurtured, contributing citizens to the world.
Because that's a job on itself.
That's a
job on itself.
It is a never-ending, complete 100,000,000% job. And that's the thing that they said this morning, too, when I was listening to Breakfast Club. Charlemagne, sometimes he really is foolish, but Charlemagne is, what they call that, crazy as a fox. Mm-hmm. He's very, very methodical and knows when he says these things, it's all to get you to pay attention. But the one thing he said this morning that was very, very poignant and telling is that, if you add up what your so-called housewife does and her contribution to the life of a husband who values her, it's priceless.
Priceless is the word that came to my mind before you said it.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
It's priceless. So, if your husband, the man who's you all are creating this family together, and he values your contribution, it's not about you going out there getting a job. Your contribution is valued and seen as being immensely precious to the forward movement of what the family is trying to create. So the whole thing of money and marriage is very interesting, and it really has to be settled and looked at from a non-emotional perspective. That engagement ring is a symbol, or was a symbol, of his capacity to provide for the family life that he is requesting that you help him create. Like, I got you. When you have to have children, you don't have to leave your children somewhere and go to work, and somebody else is raising our baby at 6-week-old, and we don't know why they trauma and having fits and fears because somebody at the daycare is messing with our kid. I got you. You don't have to do that. Or modern times, since, women, especially African American women, we are the most educated woman in the entire world. The black woman in America, she is fastly becoming, one of the most educated corporate takeover chicks in the world, So if it's that, you want, you have a marriage relationship and everybody has a career. When it's time for me to have children, somewhere we have to plan that I can stay home with our children and our lifestyle still be met. And that ultimately is a man's responsibility. Ultimately, it just is. Like, you ain't gonna breastfeed.
Yeah.
And the nurturing bond, not saying that men can't bond with their children. Of course they can. But there's a different bonding that is natal to mother and child.
You're not going to be a complete man if your responsibility is to stay home with your children Monday through Friday. You're going to there's something missing from you, you know? So during the social media era, podcast era, you're going to have people who go, well, I'm a stay home dad. Cool. There's going to be some.
Yeah.
But the reason why, you know, we're physically built the way we are is because we're the ones to go out there and, you know, handle the physical labor.
Right.
And women, on the other hand, they're the natural nurturers.
Right.
That's not saying men can't do it.
That's right. Or women can't.
Or women can't handle
right.
both. Or
That's
women
right.
can't go get because they are. Like, what do you do? When you just said women are becoming fastly, you know, the most educated, you know, people on the planet. You can't stop that by saying, well, you're supposed to be a mom.
Yep.
What do you do?
Yep.
Can't stop it. But, you know, got to find a balance. I love balance. Got to find a balance.
Yeah. And you look at some of the most, you know, dynamic couples, you know, people do what they need to do for their own arrangements, you know. Sometimes, you know, the woman does have to go back 6 weeks or whatever, you know, after she has a baby, you know. But, you know, everybody just does what they need to do. So money and marriage, you know, would you and your partner, do y'all share accounts, or do you have your own separate account? He has his own separate account, and then there's a central account for the responsibilities of the house. If you work, you know, that's a question that I think is good, you know, to pose out there. And then, you know, people say, I know some people in my own circle, women in my own circle, that say, you know, if they have a man, they're not paying 50% of nothing. You know, I don't really agree with that. You know, I'm not saying if you have a man and here we go back to the bus driver situation. that dang on thing just ain't gonna let us go.
Never gonna go nowhere.
Know? So I'm just saying, if you have a man in your life, women, if you have a man in your life, and he's contributing to the capacity or in a way that he contributes in a good way financially to you, but your household is such that, you know, everybody needs to contribute financially. If you are intent on building a strong family, a strong relationship, are you going to fight about what you have to contribute? Well, I'm a woman. I'm female, so I shouldn't have to contribute. You a man. You supposed to take care. That's not the case anymore. You have to work together, is my perspective. You know? Now, if he just like, you know, you better take 50% of this, or here's another thing. Let me change this thought process. You have, and I know couples like this. The man, they both go to work, they live off one income and invest and save the other. That works for them. You know, they live off one income. So essentially, let's just say he's making $80,000 a year. You know, by the time you get done with taxes, it's 60 he bringing home. Y'all live off 60. He's paying all the bills off his 60, and she makes 45 or 60. She brings home 40. They're investing that, buying property, building an empire. What's wrong with that? That is people working together to make their dynamic, their relationship work.
Real quick, how about we just add that to the questions we asked during the dating phase? Yeah, that's it. You know.
Oh yeah, you got to ask about a mug credit score too.
Yeah, you did. Like, we need to come up with a list of things you have to ask during the dating phase. Doesn't have to be the first date,
right?
But just to get some understanding, and don't I really like this guy. I really like this girl. Blind you from the things he or she said no to.
Right.
You know.
Right.
That's another thing. Like, there's a lot of ways we trap ourselves into situations, and we try to figure it out when we get in. And money, like you said, is a big thing, that a discussion that we but we could have had, and realized that I'm attracted to you, you're attracted to me, but we're just not going to agree on some of the most important things. Right? You ever see people, not to go off topic, but just real quick, something like religion.
Right.
They wait till the baby's born to say no Christmas. Well, when were you going to tell me?
Yeah, no. Your values have to align, you know, and your values around money, your values around religion and spirituality, and your values around, what is the goal and direction of the family, right? It has to align because you're going to end up, it's just going to blow up. Those three things are going to blow up, your marriage, your relationship with your partner, especially the money thing. And in the dating phase, if you see somebody is like a no holds barred spendthrift, it's hard to pull a mug off that cliff. And I listen to some of these shows, and again, I have friends and family in my circle of love where they came together, and one of them was a miser and miser is kind of like a negative connotation, but the person was very frugal and a good steward of their resources, and the other person was like shopping online and just loved the fact that the boxes was coming to the house, and as they began to date, they began to see those qualities in one another, and almost didn't cement or really bring their relationship together because they couldn't find a middle ground. So they loved each other enough to where they got sober and decided that, look, if we're gonna make this work, we got to work this part out, because you gonna take whatever stewardship to we gonna end up in the poorhouse. So those type of things have to be worked out. But money and marriage is important. And again, like I said from the outset, whatever works for you and your partner is what works. And y'all make sure that it'll work and keep your success flowing for show. Right? Mm-hmm. That makes sense to you, Flaw?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, money and partnership, money and marriage, money and relationship, it's all connected to the success of a person's life, and in every aspect of relationship, you want to observe a person's words and actions. You want to make sure that what a person is saying to you match the way they are treating you, right? We call that congruency. And oftentimes, especially out here in this dating world, we got to stay on that for a minute. I don't know. May must be love month. I don't know. But
it's definitely make or break it. Summer's around the corner.
Absolutely.
This better be serious because it's time to be single.
Right. A person has to show their actions. A person has to show that their words match their actions. If you are dating someone, or even in a business relationship or a spiritual or communal relationship, your way that you behave towards people has to match the words coming out of your mouth. You can't say you love somebody and then do not provide or show a hint of care towards them if they are in a situation where that's clearly what is needed. You can't say, I'm thinking of you, or these, niceties, but your actions show completely different behavior. Congruency is so important across all relationship dynamics. In business, if you are connecting with someone and you tell them you're going to call them on Friday, they call you for business and you say, okay, I'm going to call you XYZ, and you don't call them, that immediately begins to unravel the relationship that you're trying to establish. Right? And business success is not so much about your service or quality, but it's about the relationships that you build and the trust that you generate and create within the context of those relationships. So you have to be as best as you can about your word matching your energy and your behavior towards a person. Sis, if you are with a man and he, is not doing what he says he is going to do, that's a problem. You can't really grow no roots in that because the soil is transient. I'm not talking about the one-off, well, I said I would do X, Y, and Z. I'm sorry, baby, I couldn't do that. The conversation, the owning, and the honor of coming to speak to you about why the person couldn't do X, Y, Z. That's different. That's an honorable person. But if it's constantly, you supposed to show up at 10, he don't come for 2 days or whatever. It's your birthday, you don't get no call, but it's his birthday and here he come. And vice versa with women. Congruency is so important. So the spiritual, the mind, body, balanced, energetically balanced perspective is to not only observe what people are saying, but what is their behavior representing. That's your true litmus. That's the truth of where they are. For whatever reason. It just may be that they just janky in their spirit. And they're distracted here, there, everywhere. It may not be malicious or just, that they are, some evil ass person. They just may be flawed in that character department where they just are here, there, everywhere, lack of focus, whatever, whatever it is, it ain't matching. Got to observe that. Pay attention to that. And then adjust your life accordingly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I guess you ain't got nothing to say about that, Flo.
He was getting deep.
So this is the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance podcast, right? And we talk about all aspects of our life that require the highest vibration of our mind, the balance of our physical body, and of course the highest energy that we can bring to what it is that we are trying to do in life. And that means every area of our life needs to be addressed. Dating, male-female relationships, partnerships, business, the food we eat, the company we keep, the spirituality that we engage in or not, every aspect of our life. So, the key point here is watch what people do, not what they say. Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, yeah, I want to be with you. Or I want you to be my lady, or I want you to be my guy. Or, hey, let's do this business thing together. And the person don't never follow up or do what they supposed to do or say. Mm-hmm. Everything is about trust, building trust. And that's what we want to observe. And that's what takes you places. Your network is what really holds you down. Your tribe.
Yeah.
And we all have so many tribes. You got your girlfriend tribe. You got your that's my brother tribe. You got your business tribe. You got your mentor tribe. Come on now. Mm-hmm. You got your religious or your spiritual tribe. Nobody builds anything without their network. And you got to make sure that the people you surround yourself with, their actions and words are congruent, right? And then that also makes sure that you yourself are that vibration which you are seeking in others, So, your tribe and community is everything. It's everything. I know. The tribe can be a pain in the ass.
Finding one can be, but when you get it,
it's still a pain in the ass. Because tribes, groups, community, people that we bring in to our, sphere of awareness and circle. People have rules and ways of being and all of that kind of stuff, right? But finding a community, vibrating, open your energy up to, create a new group or become a part of a new group. Is crucial sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you've outgrown your group. Sometimes you are on a different trajectory than your group. And that's got to be, again, some of these decisions can't be emotional. They have to be pragmatic, logical, and, directed, for where you are going or where you're at a particular time and space, Sometimes we come together in our tribes and in our groups and, there is an understanding of behavior and exchange. Mm-hmm. If the tribe or group you're a part of there's no understanding of behavior and exchange, then people act however the hell they want to act. You know? Part of what made our community so successful in, previous decades was that when we joined groups like Jack and Jill and, these are the bourgeoisie groups, the upper echelon, black upper echelon groups, or even at church, or even, in your sorority and your fraternities, your Greek life or what have you, or in your spiritual group, your cultural community group, there are certain expectations that you behave a certain way. There go that ice machine. And when you don't behave a certain way, there is a protocol of how to deal with you within the context of the group. Mm-hmm. But you can't expect that protocol and that level of care outside of your group. Because when you come across people, you don't have an agreement of how we're going to behave until that agreement is established. Y'all are making sense? I mean, y'all
absolutely,
making sense.
Absolutely.
If I'm making sense to everybody,
mm-hmm.
right? So you meet people out in the street and you hanging or whatever, and you doing, you hanging with folks in a different tribe or a different communal group than you had accustomed to being a part of. And they hollering and screaming at each other. And you used to being in a communal group where if there's a disagreement, it is a conscious effort to sit down, breathe, relax, and now let's have this discussion from a non-emotional perspective. But then you go to another group, and their conduct of their rules of behavior is like jumping up and down and screaming at each other and, having full out, very aggressive, violent discussions. Mm-hmm. And you are like in shell shock. Yeah. And you try to say, okay, wait a minute. Let's all sit down and let's breathe and meditate and relax and have this discussion from a calmer perspective. That's not the agreement of that group.
That group, right. What you see is how they calm down. So you gotta let them get it out.
So then at that point, you have to determine whether you are going to immerse yourself in the process of that particular tribe or politely decline participation. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can come to that type of dynamic, and by the way that you present yourself makes a shift in how the rest of the tribe behaves or the community behaves. I've had those experiences, But it is really very, very important that you understand the language, the communication, the protocols, what's expected on how people within a certain group interact with one another. If everybody in the group is slimy and stealing, then that's the language of that group. That's the expectation, and mm-hmm. that's your vibration. I would suggest that you do a sage healing immediately. Mm-hmm. So, our tribes, our groups we're connected to, the media and this American lifestyle have us all tripped up, especially us African American. No one does anything of greatness and success without a group, without their community, without their network, without their tribe, if you will. You just can't do it. You think you can because we are in an individualistic society. This paradigm called the United States of America is a great experience of destruction and individualism. A great experiment of of destruction and individualism. But if you just step back a moment and take a look at the people who are the most successful, they tribed up like a mug. Look at our Hispanic brothers and sisters. They ain't playing. Mm-hmm. They just about own whole of Trenton now, where we're from. And if you go to any other major city, you will see it's tribed up. The women support the men. The men take care of the family and bring their brothers to work with them, they tribed up. The Africans that come to the United States of America, they tribed up. You may never see a woman with her husband who is an African-born woman, but she got a husband. Caribbean women too. They come to America. You never see. You will be like, I ain't know Navisa was married, but she got a husband. And not only does she have a husband, they have a whole community that every week they put $250 each in a pot and pass the pot around. You need your tribe and your community. My black folk born in America, it was one of the dirtiest, greatest tricks played on us. You don't need nobody. You can do it all by yourself. That's BS. You cannot. Everybody needs their group. Going back to, my EYL brothers. It doesn't register in your mind, but they actually said we have like 30 people that we employ. But when you see the show, it doesn't register in your mind that it's more than Troy and Rashad. Mm-hmm. 30 people. And they went to school and grew up with them, and they from the neighborhood. That's their tribe, their nucleus of success. So we got to stop trying to do everything by ourselves, especially the whole I'm an independent woman type of thing. That's a whole nother show. And that's a show that we got to talk about, not emotionally, but from a position of logic, pragmatic and purposeful discussion so we can get some clarity around that. I tell people, I'm strong. I'm an African woman. Mm-hmm. I'm African ancestry all day long. Of course I am strong. But that doesn't mean that I want to alienate a powerful, strong king out of my life. That doesn't mean that I want to do all the stuff I've had to do by myself. That's nonsense. You gotta find a way to incorporate and be an asset or a value-added asset to your tribe, and your tribe be a value-added asset to you. Because truly, the game of money, we started talking about money and relationships at the top of the hour. The game of money, the game of success, the game of wealth is a team sport. Nobody creates great wealth or even reasonable wealth by themselves. It's just not a real thing. So we have to get our minds around this, learn to take the emotionalism out of it, and have some serious heart-to-heart discussion around what money, relationships, partnerships, business connections, network, and our tribe and community mean. And some behaviors you can't comport to other areas of your life if you don't have the same relationship or the same understanding of behavior with you and a particular group or person out of, your natal or your nucleus tribe. Another thing I like to say is, you save, this was told to me a long time ago by a very, very, very successful business person that I had the blessing to be mentored under just, for a time. And the person said, that was an emotional decision you made, Samu. They said, you keep your emotions, your heart is for your family. Your head is for business. You can't make business decisions emotionally. That's the language of that game. Relax, breathe, and allow spirit and the higher consciousness to guide your decision, not your feelings and your emotionalism and what you like and what you don't like. You may like somebody and have a vibe towards them, but then you got to sober up and see if their words and actions match their capacity that they are putting before you in terms of business, in terms of relationship or whatever. Your head belongs to the streets. Your heart and your emotions, your feelings, that is the place that you should have a little more capacity for your family and for your loved ones and everything. For real. And that's the code and the language of the different tribes and groups that, we all need to be a part of. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's real. So we're going to have a couple polls for y'all. We want to get your feedback. And those listening to the sound of my voice, we are going to invite you, if you DM us at my MBE podcast on Instagram.
Yeah, sounds about right.
We will have you come on. We want to do a call in. I don't even know why I'm trying to get all that kind of smoke, child.
More time. My MBE podcast. You had it right.
Yeah, my MBE. Y'all DM us if you have any questions or if you want to. In fact, just look on that Instagram for the number. We'll do a call in show. Y'all can come in and we'll have the topic posted and we'll have a chat. That would be awesome, to get people's feedback and everything. And, in the world of social media and podcasting, the feedback going to be interesting, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So, hey, y'all, determine how you're going to deal with your money and all your relationships, not just me. And whatever works for you, works for you. Hey, if you like it, I love it, honey. And it's all good. Congruency is important. What a person says should match what they do. And the relationships and behaviors of a relationship is agreed upon between the people in the relationship. And that is how you build success and wealth. And you keep your mind, your body, and your energy in balance. Till next time, peace and love.